on what we're screwing up or something. Volume is off.
The what?
The volume on my laptop's off.
Yeah, your microphone's going out live though.
Hello, everybody.
Well, good evening. Hope everybody has had a time to join us. We got a special guest tonight. I'm looking forward to talking to him. Mr. Tim Farmer, I think. But all the things that,
Yeah.
every Kentuckian should probably know something that he's done, right?
It was Kentucky Afield, host on TV, personality forever.
This is 1934.
Since
1934.
1934, okay, yeah.
He
aged-
turned 39 years old
You've
this
aged
year.
well. Adjust his camera.
Oh,
He's not centered up.
you hit it.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Okay. Tim's social media stuff, since he's retired from Fish and Wildlife, 29 years, Tim, 30?
Yeah, 29 years I was with Fish and
Yeah.
Wildlife.
He's on social media. He's on TikTok. Just got on TikTok. He's already up to 25,000 followers, 72,000 likes. Now, this guy lives in Franklin County. So just remember that as I read these things off. 14,300 followers on Instagram. YouTube, he's had over 1,500 videos. He's got 137,000 subscribers. Facebook, he's maxed out at 5,000. Personally, Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen's got 238,000 followers. Homemade Jam, which has only been 6 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah, I kind of took that out of the mothballs, and we're kind of we're doing some
Okay.
music stuff.
It's up to 6,800, and Cast Iron Cooking with Tim Farmer's around 35,000. TV show, coast to coast, top to bottom, North Dakota to Texas, Florida to Oregon, Washington. 60 million viewers a week. 60 million.
If I thought about that when I was doing it, I'd get nervous.
Right. And then, so his total social media followings or views, we think around here if we get 200 views, man, we're rocking in Frankfort.
We're doing good in Frankfort. That's right.
Tim's got just slightly more than that, 175 million views.
He gets more views accidentally than we will on purpose.
And this guy lives in Franklin County.
And have for 34 years.
Right. Got a farm with his wife, Nikki, daughter, Kelly.
Yep.
I met him through Dr. Gary Stratton, chair of the business college up at KSU, just happened to be up there when they were having a phone call. Gary and Dr. Stratton introduced me to Tim, and we've been friends ever since.
But eat your pizza too. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Shameless
Right,
plug
Nikki?
for Da Vinci's.
Yeah. So tell us about your life.
I never had any plans to be on television. Zero.
How did that happen with Kentucky Afield?
I shouldn't say zero plans because I was always kind of an entertainer. I played music when I was a kid. I think we were playing in bars when I was like 15. Don't tell my mom. But I was a guitar player, and I was always kind of the goofy class clown. Had a lot of energy. Now they'd probably put me on Ritalin or something like that. But I always wanted to have fun. I always, but my big thing, it was music and hunting and fishing. And then, I was telling you guys before we started here, I would look for the oldest guy in the room.
Right.
And, I remember some of those names when I was a kid growing up. Now, of course, I had my buddies, who I grew up with. But when I wanted to hang out with somebody, I was hanging out with Dexter Welburn and Arnold Bush, and these old guys were in their 70s.
And where was this at?
This was in Carter County.
Okay.
Climbing trees, barefoot to shake a possum out. I'm talking these guys. And, they had grown up in a depression. They'd been through wars. They knew stuff. And I was just fascinated with these guys' stories and their lives. And when they found out that I was truly interested, here I'm this young kid, At first they looked at you like, why you want to talk to me? I'm like, because you know stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I like it. I mean, my parents were always very respect your elders type thing. And we took, my dad's a wonderful guy. I'm still lucky to have him, and he was always very, respect your elders. He didn't have to tell me that too much because I'm just fascinated by the whole
Right.
the whole.
And if you
guy
messed
thing.
up, it only took 1 or 2 times to figure it out that he wasn't playing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because the Marine Corps was nothing.
Right.
But, I've already been there.
Well, I tell that to my kids all the time. When we grew up, and of course you're older than I am, and Craig is too. I just turned 52, but not only would your parents discipline you, your neighbors would discipline you. Your friends' parents would discipline
oh
you.
yeah.
So-
You mess up. You know.
And your parents knew before you got home. That was the worst thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And we didn't have text messages back then.
Mm-mm.
I know, but word got around. What, did you hear what he said? He's younger than us. You're 39. I'm 36.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That I
What's he
just
talking
colored
about?
gray because I like gray.
Yeah.
Like
makes
gray?
you look distinguished.
It goes good with the blue, right?
Yeah, it does. It matches up well.
But I was, I turned on the TV one time. I watched Kentucky Field as a kid. Now, when I watched Kentucky Field, when I first got cable, when did cable come out? Like 1984?
Well, we had it in Frankfort when I moved here from Harlan in 1965.
Had cable?
They had a community cable, just
Oh,
a
wow.
local cable company. The guy strung it himself.
Well, you were up there growing up in Carter County. I'm the next county over in Greenup County.
That's Turkey Hunting.
84, yeah. Right between our two, primary cities, there's a, acres and acres of great turkey and deer land.
Yeah.
We probably, cable probably wasn't widespread outside of the city limits it was probably at least 84.
Right.
Oh, yeah, before it became widespread. Frank was just a fluke. Just somebody just decided to do it.
I remember watching Kentucky Field at my grandfather's. Now, it used to be on the Louisville Channel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was on Wave.
Yeah, everybody
on
in Kentucky
Wave.
watched it, yeah.
And it was pretty primitive. That show, they don't say too much about it, but this year, it's 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the infancy of television, 1953.
Is it the longest running continuous show in Kentucky? Something like that?
It's
got
one of the longest running, and it's like the top 3 in the world.
Oh, okay.
Continuous
All right.
running shows. Now, it had in 1984, when I got hurt in the Marine Corps, that motorcycle accident, lost use of my right arm, I got cable. And man, I thought that was just so cool. And I started watching Kentucky Field, and Jeremy Dreyer was the host. And buddy, everything Jeremy Dreyer said, if he said get a green, pumpkin worm and 1.25 inches long, everything he said, I believed him. And he was getting his information probably from who knows where.
Yeah.
But I really liked his delivery. He was more of a biologist type, and he's probably one of my favorite hosts. But I remember watching, the very primitive. This was probably in the 60s, Kentucky Field, and it was like, howdy, sportsman. And they did most of the stuff from the studio. And they'd talk about, it was pretty boring.
Right.
They would talk about the fishing report and what they're going to do. And they'd have this guy walk in, with his glasses. And, he'd talk about, how weather affects fish. And, I remember it being pretty primitive. So that was the infancy of outdoor television. And then it kind of bumped up a notch over the years. They started getting out of the studio more. And I was inspired by watching Jeremy and those guys. And still, even in those days, back in 84, they'd have a hunting or fishing segment to some degree, but it was very biology
Yeah.
driven.
It was more like science, matter of fact type stuff.
Yes.
'Cause I remember my
Yes.
dad watching it, and it was always, shh, pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like, because you didn't, back in those earlier days early days for us, I guess, but you didn't have the personalities like,
Oh, yeah.
someone like you with your funny personality and your sense of humor would have never made it in TV.
Oh, no.
Like,
You'd
you're not
been-
professional enough. You're the clown,
You'd
right?
have been a mess.
Right.
And so they had Hope Carlton. Howdy, sportsman. And this is Mr. Greg, such and such. But you know what? People were watching it because they had information, and they were connected with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they had all the guys who knew all the stuff.
It's where I learned about blue tongue on deer disease.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I never heard of that before.
That's nasty stuff.
Do their tongues actually turn blue?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's not a pleasant death. It's a horrible thing. But watching that, So here I was, I had a plan on being a Marine for 20 years, and then I was gonna retire at 38, and then I was gonna go to state police for another 20 years and retire at 58. That's my plan.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out that way. So here I was, all of a sudden, what in the world am I gonna do? I got one arm that works. What am I gonna do? So I sat around for a while and was trying to figure out how to do things. I thought, I'm just going squirrel hunting. So I called my old buddy, Dexter Wilburn, and he was just fascinated by me because I was shooting off my right shoulder with a 22.
Yeah.
And my shooting hadn't...
Going squirrel hunting with a 22?
Oh, yeah. I always did. So I had an old Mossberg lever action that my dad had given me, 1961 model. And so nothing changed. I'd have to find a rest, but I'd shoot off my right shoulder, right eye dominant. I'd kill squirrels. He'd just laugh.
With a 22.
With a 22, oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
And so he was just absolutely enthralled with that. So then I thought, my next door neighbor at the time was a game warden. He said, Farmer, he's always seen me coming back from fishing. I took a John boat and put a plywood deck on it, put me a little seat on it. And it had a 5 horsepower Mariner on it. I broke that shear pin about every 10 minutes. Way too much boat, not enough motor. But, I was always, that's what I did. And I hunted and fished and was trying to, went back to school and studied biology. His name is Jeff Adams, and he was a game warden, my next door neighbor. He says, much as you like to hunt and fish, you got to work for the department. I said, you're not going to want a one-armed game warden. I thought Department of Fish of Wildlife was game wardens.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy Dreyer. So he said, no, man. He said, there's a job open. It's fisheries. I said, well, what do fisheries do? He said, well, they go out and shock ponds. And I said, shock ponds? I mean, it was a foreign concept to me, but they have these have you ever seen a shocking boat?
Yeah.
I have not.
I'll describe it. It's
They have
pretty
a
cool.
generator in the back of the boat hooked up to electrodes that hang down in the front of the water.
Yeah, bunch on either side hanging down in the water.
Like octopus, octopi legs, I guess you would say.
And then they blast
on
the
a
water.
frame. Then they blast the water. You don't want to touch the water. And these fish would
Shock them when they
shock
float up.
them, and they would float up.
Yeah, we used to do that with blasting caps.
I think that was illegal.
It is. Still is.
You better hope there's a statute of limitations on that.
Yeah.
But, that was fun. And so I went and tried for the job. And, he told me what I was involved, setting gill nets and trap nets and hoop nets and working on the rivers and working on streams. And, it was Frankfort. I didn't know anything about Frankfort. But I came, and they seemed to like me, and they said, well, we'll call you back. There was 3 or 4 guys sitting out there. So I got the call, and I came back, and they said, we got to ask you something. I said, what? They said, what's up with the glove? Gives a glove on. So I said, "'Tis but a flesh wound. It's no big deal." And I tried to, talk it off. They said, "No, really." And technically, they probably shouldn't have asked, but it was a long time ago.
Right.
I said, "Well, I have some limited use of this arm, really limited."
Some limited use.
And they said, "Well, can you do things?" I said, "I can do anything anybody else can do." I said, "I think." I said, "Here's the deal. I want to work for you guys. I'm sure there's a 6-month period of time or whatever, or 30 days or whatever it is."
It was 6 months, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, if you don't like what I do, let me go. No, and they hired me. And so I figured out, I was building shocking boats and building measuring boards and, going out and shocking and doing all that fun stuff. And that's how I started with the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
I didn't know how you got. I thought you just came straight to the TV.
Oh, no. Now, what happened is...
Did you work with Dave Shuffett?
No, Dave was host for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
The previous host, I think, was Tim Michaels, and he was there for a short amount of time. And then before him was the longtime host, Hope Carlton. He was there like 20-some years.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave was there a short while and then went to do his own thing. Now, here's what happened in that time. So I guess I can't honestly say that I never thought about being on television. I did a stand-up. I had, during that time, during my Fish and Wildlife experience, all these guys would come in and bring their bows. I was like, I can't do that. I'd get really, not depressed, but I'm like, And then one day, we called him Billy Bob Mitchell came and said, "Farmer, Eureka." I said, "What?" He showed me a magazine. This guy was pulling a bow back with his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Man, I gotta get into something like that." So we cut a piece of leather and put it on a string. I took it home. I went to Walmart, bought the cheapest bow I could find, and I pulled that back. and I was hitting, baseball-sized group to 20 yards in 20 minutes.
Well, put your eyes right in the perfect spot.
Oh, yeah. Well, my mouth was bleeding. I'm like, I can do this. So I started doing that quite a bit. And then a buddy of mine, Mike Wilson, who used to work on our vehicles over there, he says, why don't you come over and let's do some shooting at some 3D targets? I said, all right. So I was out there shooting, and I shot every day, 100 times a day. I was disciplined in that because I liked it so much. And and right in front of me, I shot what they call I can't even remember what it is now. Robin Hood. I shot an arrow inside of an arrow,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah.
is
A rare feat.
a rare feat. He said, "Farmer, you shooting better than me. Let's go to an archery tournament." I said, well, "What's that?" He said, "We take these 3D targets and we shoot up on Fort Hill, and we have the archery club used to be up there."
Right.
So I went up there, and I started winning competitions against 2-arm guys. Well, then I started winning bigger tournaments and started going to some of the world shoots and things like that. And during that period of time, you remember Marvin Bartlett?
Uh-huh. I did.
He's still in the TV world. He's been doing it a long time.
Yes.
He found out I was shooting my teeth and winning some archery competitions. He came to a segment with me. Well, he won an Emmy
For that segment.
for that segment,
that
where I
segment.
was shooting both my teeth. So at that time, once I figured out I could shoot a bow, and I was pulling 80 pounds. I was pulling more than anybody else because I had to get my sight group down. So I started going out west and killing javelina, and I had a stick bow, and I was shooting pheasants out of the air, and all kinds of fun stuff. So just for fun, because I had always produced music, I started taking some video, and then I would come back and edit that with the music. So I'd always messed around with audio and video type stuff. And this was 93, and so I thought, I'm going to put this thing together. The Outdoor Channel had just come about.
Right.
And you remember the early days
Yeah.
of the Outdoor Channel?
Yeah.
It had this show called Go Fever, Go,
Right.
Fee, ver. And it was terrible. The quality was horrible. But I thought, man, I can put something together. And I went out west and I shot like a javelina.
What's a javelina?
Javelina, if you saw it in this room, you'd think it was a pig.
Okay.
But they have uppers and lowers, really sharp teeth. They're out in Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona. There's another word.
Are they
for it.
fairly aggressive?
They are. They have horrible eyesight, so you don't want to trip over one because they'll just eat you up with those
Yeah.
teeth.
If they can find you.
Oh yeah. So I shot one of those. I shot a pheasant out of the air. I can't remember what
Nice.
all I shot, and I sent it to the Outdoor Channel, and they said, "Come on out." I said, "What's come on out mean?" They said, "We already got your sponsors," and they had me a list of.
Cool.
I've got that. They called it a promissory letter somewhere, and I was just flabbergasted. And they said, "This is unusual. You're doing something different." And they said the quality of their stuff was really bad back then. I mean, people were just throwing stuff together. And I had a fairly good presentation. If I looked at it now, I would not be proud of it. But they said, "Come on out." Well, that didn't match up with the family plan I had at that time. So just during that period of time, Dave had decided to go do his thing.
Was it Kentucky Today or
I can't remember.
he did
what it
some
was.
kind of just walking around field caves and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Dave was my neighbor
Yeah.
for a while that
He
was
did
going on.
something. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. But about that time, that job came open, and I didn't think they'd hire me. I mean, I'm old school, like watching that show as a kid, like, this is the holy grail. They won't hire me. But I remember I was in a dove field, and one of the guys out there, he's passed on now. I think it was Wayne Davis. He said, "I'm going to tell you something." He said, "I'm not supposed to tell you this. We had Fish and Wildlife dove shoots." He said, "You're in the top 2." I said, "Top 2 what?" He said, "Top 2 candidates for Kentucky event."
Oh, cool.
So you got to be kidding me. And
Nice.
so then I had to go back and do some, stand-up camera stuff and did all that. And next thing you know, they said, "You're the host." I'm like,
And you became what, the 5th or 6th?
"What's that?"
You were the 5th or the 6th
Host
host.
Ron Rohde, who just passed away. He was way up in his 90s. He was the first host. And then after him was the longtime host, Hope Carlton. You might know Hope Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And then after him, there was a Tim Michaels that was there for a very short amount of time. Well, no, it was Jeremy Dreyer, then Tim Michaels, and then after that, Dave was there. I think it was 6 years, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, he was on there. Yeah, he wasn't there long.
And then next thing you know, they got the one-armed dude shooting a bow with his teeth.
How many years were you there? You
I
remember?
did the show for almost 21 years.
That's what I thought. A little over
It's a
20.
long time.
Yeah.
It is.
And you think about. I was talking to Nikki, who's sitting over here, just a little while ago. I've done between Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen, Homemade Jam, which I did for 4 years, which was a monster to produce. A live music show. You had to have house sound. You know how complicated it is just to set up 3 mics here. But you think about getting house sound right for the audience, then getting TV sound right.
Right. Which has to be mixed completely different than house.
Yeah, and it was, and then I had to travel to do it, so I had to put that one to bed because I was doing too much. We had a catering business, and I do speaking engagements all over the United States, and we were just, I did it for 4 years, but I figured out that we'd done about 2,500 shows in the last 28 years or so.
That's amazing. And then all the preparation before it would tell you how many hours. I mean, it's 1,250 hours on 30-minute shows, but probably 10,000 hours prepping for it.
Oh, it's just mind-boggling. It's making me want to take a nap just thinking about it.
So, what made us see? How long you been in Franklin County?
Since '89.
Because I didn't know that until Gary Stratton introduced us that you were in Franklin County. I knew of you because of, my dad's a hunter and fisherman. I did it till I started playing ball, hunting fish and stuff. I squirrel hunted with a 410, not no 22. But never in my wildest mind did I ever think you were living in Franklin County.
Well, the thing about Franklin County is you could be out in the county, and where I live, it's up on top of a big high hill. It looks like you're in Rockcastle County.
Yeah.
I mean, Franklin County is an interesting county. But, the thing is, I've had my head down for the last 30 years, just doing show after show after show after show. And I don't hardly know anybody in Frankfort, just people I work with.
With your notoriety, I was wondering this yesterday. Why hadn't anybody said, Tim Farmer, be the ambassador for Franklin County and Frankfort? I mean, you're known across the country. You're half of Kentucky with the fishermen and the hunters. That's about 1.5 million, not quite half. They all know who you are. You're living here. Why are you not telling about Franklin County as our spokesperson for the whole darn county? Damn county.
You can say that.
Yeah, I can't because it's a podcast.
It's
It
private
just
podcast.
amazes the heck out of me how they're not calling, your phone's not ringing off the hook for locals to do stuff.
You know what? We're very private. We live back in the middle of nowhere on a farm, and we've been, like I said, I've had my head down. I mean, you think about the amount of shows that we've done and the prepping for a show, and it's been, I've been low key, I guess you could say, because we don't even get out much. I mean,
Probably don't got time.
we don't have time. So I mean, it's really gotten a lot better here in the last couple of years because, Kentucky Phil retired from that. I'm not doing as much of the music stuff now. We're doing some homemade jam sessions. I have a recording studio
Up in Lexington,
in
right?
Lexington.
We'll
where
talk
we do-
about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and I got a buddy over there, Jared, who is just a great guy who we work with over there. But I love. Nikki got mad at me because she didn't really get mad at me. She's so sweet. But I was doing a television show, the Homemade Jam Show, and what my goal with that is, there's so many talented people. You think about how many talented people, how many people in the music business have come from Kentucky, from the Everly Brothers to Dwight Yoakam to the Judds. I mean, think about how many people. Bill Monroe, all these people. Is Bill Monroe?
I don't know if he's from Frankfort, but
No, from Kentucky though.
yeah, I mean from Kentucky. Yeah, it's
Isn't
a
Ricky
lot.
Skaggs from Kentucky?
Yeah,
Yes,
Louisa.
yes.
A lot of the Louisa people.
Yeah.
Patty Lovelace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just so many people, and so I thought I want to get these people on board.
Y'all are leaving out one. I know zero about music, maybe 0.001. Who's the lady that sung Coal Miner's Daughter?
Oh, Loretta Lynn.
Loretta Lynn.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. like the number
I mean,
one.
how do you
wi-
forget her?
my wife's watching. She'll be highly disappointed I didn't remember Loretta Lynn.
Yeah.
But my whole goal was that is to get people on that were talented and give them a place to go, and that's what we did with the Homemade Jam show. But it was such a booger to produce. I mean, you cannot imagine.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time but I did it for 4 years. I don't know how we did that for 4 years. Nikki's saying, I don't either.
Well, the Lexington thing, the studio just came about in the last 8 months.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and what you're doing there. That's my phone.
Well,
No, it ain't.
it might be mine.
Yeah, it's not mine.
Oh, it's my daughter Becca.
You had an idea. You wanted
It's the
to
same
locate
thing.
it in Frankfort, right? Originally.
It was tough to find a place here for
Yeah.
what I had to do. But it's the same thing.
But a guy
People-
with 175 million views had trouble finding some place in Frankfort.
Well, I looked around a little bit and I hit a couple dead ends, I guess you could say. And so, I'm the kind of guy that's like, hey, I mean, obviously, if somebody puts a barrier up, I'm going to jump over it. I'm going to figure out where to go and what to do.
Right.
I mean, for goodness sakes, I shot a bear with my teeth. And then I ate it. I'm
Yeah.
not being braggadocious, but I mean, I'm going to figure it out. So, found a wonderful place, wonderful guy in Lexington that we're doing business with, and it's the same sort of thing. Did you see any of the videos that I posted recently with
Yes.
Sarah Beth Terry?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, she is some kind of talent, and she wrote those songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why there are people out and about who you've never heard of that's better than anybody on the radio right now.
Yeah. Are you going to go into the producing thing, Nikki?
But it's something.
Are you going to be Kentucky Simon Cowell? Go around,
Well,
collected up some talent, bring them to market.
I'm not going to tell you the tens of thousands of dollars that I have spent to produce that Homemade Jam show. I mean, that came out of my pocket because I believed in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still kind of doing that because I want so badly. I want people to see some of this real talent that's out there. So it's not a real big place. I'm at some point I'm gonna start looking for a little bigger place because we had 15 people in there with brass and it got pretty. Those walls
Pretty tight, yeah.
Walls start coming in on us a little bit, but it's just big enough for 6 or 7 people, and I've got a lot of people coming up that we're going to showcase in there, and it's a cool place. You've seen pictures of it. It's got a cool vibe. It's got a Nashville kind of vibe, and everybody who comes in there loves it.
But me, promoting Frankfurt all the time, I wish we had it here.
Find me a building.
Right. Well, we've looked, right?
We have.
We've looked at a lot of places.
Yeah.
KSU, downtown, the old Paul Sawyer Library. Looked at a lot of different places trying to find just roadblock after roadblock.
Well, they're going to have a hard time beating the deal that I get over there.
Right.
I mean, this guy wants it there. It's there because of his love of music, and we have to find people who are interested in that sort of thing. It's not just a building. I can record somebody an album. If they want to come in and record an album, they can do that. I'm still thinking about record label names. I want to do that. But I would like it to be closer to home. And I'm still.
If somebody in Frankfurt would come up with something, you could come up with a good label name related to Frankfurt, maybe like Capitol Records.
Wait a minute. I think somebody's got that one.
Oh, that's true. True.
We can spell it different.
Put
Spell
an
with a K.
Put an A on it.
Capital.
Capital.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. It really does. It takes someone with a love for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
there's a huge expense if you didn't have the love, if someone else had the love, if a building's sitting empty on Friday night,
And we got plenty empty buildings. in
we
this
have
town.
tons of them. Somebody would be creative enough to come up with a creative deal of, if we ever sign anyone, I need a piece, or some kind of, maybe they get a percentage of whatever the artist makes. Maybe there's a payoff for both of you. Maybe there's never a payoff.
Well, I'm pretty much dedicated myself to the fact that if I'm going to be in that business, and I have been for a long time, I've had a recording studio since 1984. It was an early 8-track, and then I bumped on up. Nowadays, you can need limitless tracks. I mean, you can go all day long.
Right.
But I'm not so into money making deal on the music, I'm willing to. Nikki's gonna punch me.
Breaking is this breaking news, Tim?
No, this
Because we like breaking news on Frankfort today.
But the thing is, I don't care. You got to pay for your time to do things. But typically, if I have a band and if I have a group in, Nikki's gonna let me have it. I'm gonna have to take her to a real fancy dinner tonight. But I'll spend $1,200 out of my pocket to show off that group.
Mm-hmm.
That's how interested I am in doing this thing. And I've done it. I won't even tell you what I spent on the Homemade Jam show to get those people out. And we ran across people like Travis Harris and the West Coast Turnarounds. I mean, some real talent.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear some of these people and you're like, man, oh man, again, they're better than anything on the radio right now. And you wonder how the music business works. You probably don't want to know. It's probably like the mob.
Right.
But I would like to give people that opportunity to come in and really.
And there's been a lot of, like, now that you're on TikTok, there's been a lot of people on there who record TikTok videos. They're just independent artists, or they're not even artists at from the organized perspective, but they end up releasing music on iTunes and Spotify and stuff like that.
Yes.
They start making money.
It's a different world.
Right. Now that guy in the middle of nowhere who has no chance of walking into Nashville and getting a record deal can now put his voice everywhere.
Good point. That's the whole change. But then at that point, he's got to go record somewhere where we can have a good sound. But if you watch Yellowstone, I don't know if you do or not, but a lot of those artists on there, they found them on YouTube sitting outside playing something, along next to the fireplace in the middle of nowhere. So you're right. But once those people get past the fireplace, they got to go somewhere to record these things. Right. And I've got a lot of people. And what I do is I have people send me to the Homemade Jam page to private message me, a video performance of them playing music. Now, it's kind of like American Idol.
Right.
There's some really good stuff.
Really bad.
Hey, but you got to have the fun stuff to know what the good stuff is.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't know what good is till you know what bad is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Well, there's a young man starting out. His dad is Mark Wright, and I can't think of his first name, but he held a concert in Frankfort last year and did pretty well. Do you know any idea who I'm talking about?
Don't think so.
Okay. He's got the look. He looks like the country singers down there in Nashville.
Kind of like you.
Yeah, okay. And he sings really well, but I didn't know if you had.
I'm not too familiar with him.
Okay.
But I'm interested in whoever's out there and wants to come in and be on that format. And I'm thinking about now that we're at Kentucky Field. And you think about this: when you're producing a hunting and fishing show, as opposed to a cooking show. When we do a cooking show, we call that 100%er. We know what it's going to taste like. We know what it's going to be. We we make sure that it's something we've done before or we practice. Because baking, and she does a lot of baking. That's a science. You get it. Sometimes it'll raise up.
My
and
wife
fall
bakes
down.
well. Yeah,
Oh, there's nothing like it.
I can prove it.
Right.
So we get a show with Kentucky Field. You might go out and climb in a tree stand and let 4 days go by. There was no such thing as a 100%er. You go out fishing. But we were so lucky because Kentucky is so blessed with great fisheries and, we knew where to go at what times, and we had really good people that we counted on, some guides that we'd go out with.
All those old guys that you'd befriended.
Yes. I've gone to a lot of funerals of these old guys,
right.
Even from Kentucky Field, who you couldn't help but become friends with them because they're cool old guys.
Right. They go, oh, no, today's not going to be a good day.
Well, sometimes we'd have that day,
Right.
you didn't catch anything, but most of the time I think we came back in the 90 percentile of shoots working out because we, of course you got to deal with weather. So the great thing about producing our cooking show, now we do 26 episodes a year, so that's one every other week, which is not terrible. Now I was doing it one time.
Are you talking about the live ones where you get people to come in from
No.
around?
I'm talking
I
about
want you
the
to talk about
television
those in a little while too.
Yeah, that's more of what we call a cooking demo.
Okay.
Or a meet and greet or something like that. And we have done things like that at the castle. And people can come watch us cook. And they got room for about 200. And those usually sell out really quick.
I was going to say, how fast do they? You had some sell out in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. And, it leads to a situation where you're kind of like, you feel bad because, we only have room for X amount. So we're doing some other things now where we're being sponsored by outfits who, they basically set it up and we just go and they let the general public in. But somebody says, well, those tickets are so expensive, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can't go out and do things and not get paid. We have a television show to produce. We got to, that's an expensive endeavor to have a television show produced.
Will that be them?
That is some of the people who pay for our show.
Yeah. American Farm Country Store, Bus Lane Farm, Bluebird, Creative Coffees, Roastery, those kind of people.
Yeah, we got Lodge on board. We have folks who have been with us a long time. Weisenberger, folks like that.
Weisenberger Meals.
Oh, they're fantastic people. Not only is their product wonderful, obviously, but they're good people.
Yeah.
If you met those people, you just,
the son's daughter, the son of Weisenberger Mill. He married a lady I worked with in transportation, blonde haired. I don't know if I can't think of her name right now because I've been retired so long, and I'm old.
Is Phillips?
Mm-mm. It's one of his children.
Yeah,
the guy that started it, and they tried to get us to use their flyer for our pizza when we first started, but it takes a special kind of flyer to make outstanding quality pizza. Just not flyer you buy off of Kroger.
Okay. Now,
shameless plug.
No, I'm gonna be serious here now. Now, when we cook at our house, we pride ourselves in the fact that we have a pizza dough that we came up with, and you do have to use the right kind of flour. But when I get a pizza, I go to your place.
Mm-hmm.
So not too long ago, I got a pizza from his place, and when he handed out the window, it about broke my arm. And so did we eat on that for 3 days?
Did you get the
I don't know how you make money on it, dude.
Did you get the masterpiece?
I got meat.
Meat lovers.
Yeah, you called me that night or the next day, something like that.
Yeah, I was still eating on it. I think we still got a piece in the freezer. But
one of only people to complain. You put too much stuff on your pizza.
No, you can't have too much stuff on a pizza.
But talk about the shows, where you have those cooking shows where the people come in. You've told me that they travel a pretty long distance to come in.
The last time,
and they spend the night here, right?
Oh yeah,
it's a tourist draw.
Yeah,
and if it was in a bigger location in Frankfort, it would be a tourism draw, correct?
Yeah. What happens is when we do a show like that, we advertise on our Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Now, we're fortunate. We're almost to the 250,000 mark on our Facebook page. You can't get anybody like a Facebook page anymore.
Yeah,
they just won't do it.
238,000.
They just won't do it, and it's growing. Thank goodness.
They'll watch you, but to get them to click,
that's
hard.
A whole different thing.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. So we're fortunate that we have a bunch of folks we talk to there. And in the last show, we always give out a prize to whoever drove the farthest. The first couple of years we did it, it'd be like Paducah and maybe somebody from Metropolis or something like that. So in the last couple of years, we got Tennessee, obviously all those surrounding states, Texas, and I don't even know if our show airs in Texas, but people watch us on YouTube and massive numbers of folks there. So we had somebody from Oregon. We had people from, West Virginia, Arkansas.
Did you have somebody from Canada on one of the shows?
Yes. They watch us.
From Canada?
Yeah. They watch us out in the West, like in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And they came all the way out. And I'm like, yeah, so they got a prize.
And you do these at your house right now, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Right.
Now, we'll occasionally do on the farm with the farmers, but the thing that you're talking about, we've done all around. We're doing one at Blue Licks Battlefield State Park on the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've done them at the castle. We've done them at different distilleries. And where all have we done those? We've done more. We've kind of been guilty about staying in the Golden Triangle. Mm-hmm. But, we did do one in Frankfort. And not too long ago, we did our Christmas show in Frankfort, which is down at the Elizabeth, which was a really beautiful place.
That's where I got married.
Really?
Right, Eric?
That's right.
Yeah.
No good.
That was a Good Shepherd Church. Yeah.
That's a beautiful place.
It'd be pretty neat if you could do, and I guess, do you air those live?
No.
The pre-recorded?
We call it a live show, but it's basically a cooking
It's recorded
demonstration.
live. I mean,
it's not
obviously.
recorded. It's actually not recorded at all.
Well, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we used to try to do that, but it's to get the sound right and the lights.
Well,
right.
I was going to say, and you're dependent upon a lot of factors that, depending on where you're at in the state, it's hard to control.
Yeah.
No, it'd be neat if you did like all the state parks.
Well, we're talking to some different people in state parks now, and like I said, we're going to Blue Lakes. Of course, that's up kind of where I grew up. Beautiful. I remember going there as a kid. I was telling the park ranger there, as a kid from Orangeburg Elementary down there around Mason County. We went there for a school trip, and the guy who gave us the tour was the most dramatic. Man, I could see, the fighting the Indians and Danny Boone's son and the buffalo, and I mean, he just really brought it out. That place is kind of magic. It's kind of a cool spot if you've never been there.
Well, Gary Stratton said we need a Tim Farmer Country Kitchen restaurant. So speaking of that,
Do you know how many times we've been asked that?
right? You're looking for a location. You've had other cities recruit you.
Yes,
And
we're still talking to some folks.
Offer you places because they know the tourism draw. They know the hotel stays you'll get. They know the notoriety as you broadcast the show across the country, across North America, let's say, that would bring to that particular town. You've mentioned the names to me, but I wish we could do, Frankfort's a tourism town, supposedly, and you could be the biggest draw in the town. And the main thing being you'd fill up hotel rooms.
Well, there's kind of a natural progression in life, and I've never made a plan in my life. I never knew, but you kind of see things go in a certain direction. Well, we started the cooking show. Well, next people said, well, you got to measure your stuff, because I've cooked by taste. So then they wanted a cookbook. Like, oh, we got to do a cookbook now. So the next thing now it's been almost 12 years, and they're saying, why in the world don't you have someplace we can come eat? And when people do this by the thousands,
you're onto something.
you may want, and they can try our recipes because we do them on the show.
Right.
And we've got enough recipes for 60,000, menus. And, so we're thinking about that. It takes a crazy person to
Frankfort
run
is
a
a good
restaurant.
opportunity.
But if you got good quality food, you can succeed. Just like
that's right.
if you got an IT business, Eric's company just crossed the 5-year mark. We just crossed our 8-year mark, and we didn't have a clue. You got more of a clue than we did when we opened Da Vinci's. Neither one of us. Well, I had never worked in a restaurant, and Scott had worked in a restaurant as a teenager for a couple of years. So we went in blind, but we went in knowing we wanted to be the best. So we want the best for Frankfort. You've got more publicity, more notoriety than anybody in town. Maybe even more than the governor. Who knows? Across the country.
I'm not going to get in that fight.
But I'm just thinking of famous people in town. It'd be crazy to not have you have some kind of food establishment. I'm not going to say what you told me the other day, but unless you want to bring it up, but some kind of food establishment that would be a real tourist draw. I mean, they come in specifically, like they come into Buffalo Trace. They're going to see 500,000 visitors this year.
Well, I think when you're talking about this, I think of Emeril Lagasse. Of course, you know who he is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do actually know who he is.
So he's got his restaurant in New Orleans, and it's a big draw based on his name. Do you think he's in there cooking for you? No, probably not. Maybe occasionally he shows up and cooks the meal. And why people in Frankfort don't have a big picture vision of, oh, this guy's got hundreds of thousands of people that watch him every week. He's giving away prizes to people that are thousands of miles away from where his show was who traveled there. I don't get it.
It seems like somebody would think, let's call this dude up
Right.
and let's open
Or
this
one of
restaurant.
these property owners that have not, we've got several people that buy properties all the time, commercial buildings, fix them up, spend a lot of money in it, and go, I can invest a bunch of money in this building, work with this guy, we all get a return, and just make it happen so you don't have to go somewhere else.
Well, We have. I put a little feeler out there a while back, several months ago. Just put something on Facebook. Of course, that reaches a lot of people.
A lot faster than you might think.
Yeah. And right off the bat, we had people call us.
Right.
I mean, cities and towns, and I mean, very, very aggressively, kind
Right.
of knowing what we do and understanding what we do. And we're still talking to some folks, but and here's one of the thoughts that I had, and I won't say everything, but here's something. If we had people that wanted to come watch this show be shot in front of a live audience and say, we're cooking, I don't know, let's say since you do a day, and let's say we're doing a pasta dish or something. So they see us cook it, and then the chef's in the back doing the same thing we're doing. So after we cook it, the viewing audience can have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's dinner and a show. And we're taping a show in front of a live audience.
And you could even have music with it too,
No,
right?
yes.
Did
You know
say
what
that?
Emerald did? Like he had the few special guests up front that got his food.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the entire audience had the opportunity to eat, like you said, by the third party, the chefs in the back, cooking the same dish. But you had the VIP or special guest who got
had
your cooking.
40 or 50 seats, you wouldn't want to overdo it.
Right.
And you let people come to town to see a show being shot. I would change the whole format. I like performing in front of a live audience. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be different. We'd have to be working off a switcher, and you got sound issues and light issues. But if you could go
You'd
in
have
and
to
click
legitimate producers. You'd have to have legitimate producer and
well,
director.
we got folks. I mean, that's really, it's really kind of easier because you have switchers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So which kind of does your editing on the fly.
The A/B things.
Yeah. So you're doing your editing on the fly. So we're thinking about a lot of things, but there is a natural progression to these things, and you think you're the only one in the world doing it, but if you look back, we're very fortunate to be syndicated through NETA, which is the same thing as say Antique Roadshow, or what had happened. And here, I'll tell you an interesting story. We were in Florida fishing, and somebody got a hold of us through, was it a Facebook page initially, or did they get our number? Well, we had a number that was attached to our .com. And this guy said, I'm such and such. I'm with, now this has happened before with the Travel Channel,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened with a country music station too, back in the day. And it always ends up the same. And then he said, I'm such and such from the Food Network. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I was actually fishing. Now when I'm fishing, I'm fishing.
You're fishing, yeah.
So the guy said, I found you. He said, I found you on YouTube. I was doing such and such and such. He said, I like your presentation. He said, I like what you do. He said, we would like you to get you on the lineup. What did he say? To compete against the daytime. Yeah, they had all women. They wanted a guy. And he mentioned, who was it, Trisha or whoever. I can't remember. I try not to watch cooking shows because I don't want to.
Don't want to change your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'd be interested in talking to you. He said, well, we need to shoot some stuff. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, where are you? I said, I'm in Florida. I said, I'm fishing for a month. He said, no, we need to do some stuff. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm fishing. He says, well, you don't understand. I'm going to put you on TV. He thought I was just on YouTube. I said, dude, I'm already on TV. And he said, well, what do you mean? And then I said, well, go, because I had just hooked a fish. Physically, he just hooked a big bass. And I said, you go look at the Wikipedia page, so on and so forth, and you can see the information. Then he really started bugging us. And so he wanted to come to the house. And we were getting our kitchen redone then, weren't we? And so when it came down to the actual deal, I wanted to make sure that we still had our KET audience. I can do more than one show, and we could change it up. Oh, no, they have exclusivity.
KET does? Or
No. They wanted exclusivity.
Oh, gotcha.
And I can't remember all the. We won't need Nikki as much. We won't need. They're taking everything that it was organic and turning it into what they wanted, scripted type stuff. I'm like, thanks, but no thanks.
It's kind of like pop music today. They want your look. They'll make your sound to be whatever they need it to be.
what that
Yeah.
auto tune is that what they use?
Auto tune.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of on the fly processors.
We don't have auto tune in our studio.
Yeah. Well, and your show was you and her. your daughter occasionally. Is that right? Do I remember that right?
Well, she shoots it and edits
That's
it.
what it is.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So that's the whole character of the show.
It is. We can't be natural if we got a crew in the kitchen that we don't know. You know, Kelly's we're having fun throwing things at each other. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a family environment, and it is natural and it's real, and that's why these people come to us and want to do something because they see a natural. So much of real television, reality television, is the phoniest
Right.
stuff you have. I've seen
Right.
some of those shows produced. Phony.
Right.
Now you're like, tell folks what you cook. You know, when you're on TV, squirrel, rabbit,
Oh, it's
and
everything.
normal stuff.
Yeah. Now, you know, when I was cooking on TV since 1995, one of the first shows that I did was with my daughters. We were out seining some crawdads, and we got so many, we went and did a low country boil.
Yeah.
So, you know, my thing with Kentucky Phil is, okay, all right, as a true sportsman, once you shoot the deer, the work begins.
Dress the deer.
Let's show how to dress it. We sold hundreds of thousands of those deer processing videos.
Yeah.
I mean, all over the world. So we sold these, and we got this set there, and people are still using those videos to clean their deer today. How to get every ounce of meat off of that, and how to do it properly, and how to get it to the freezer. Then I met this French chef named Raoul Dupree, who changed my life. He's the one that's introduced me to sauces and wines, and I mean, he's just amazing. So during this, he kind of took me under his wing and said, "Hey, you want to train under me?" He had this took me 3 years to figure out. This guy had a restaurant in Casablanca. He cooked for Bogey, Bacall, Sinatra. He cooked for the King of Morocco. He had a restaurant with a staff of 60 and a swimming pool.
Wow.
And he was so, you know, he looked like Charlie Chaplin when he was 80.
Just a normal dude.
Just
though.
an old guy.
Yeah.
And I met him. I was out practicing shooting my bow in my yard. And his daughter, he was in visiting his daughter. He was from Lyon, France. She was a European distributor for one of the distilleries. And he saw me shoot the bow with his teeth, and he ran and about knocked me down. And he's like, I'm like, what are you doing? I said, yeah, you know, I'm shooting a bow here. And so he pulls a picture out of his pocket, and it's the goofiest thing I've ever seen. He was sitting on the back of a donkey with like a Peter Pan hat out, and he had a bow in his hand. I'm like, is this a joke? And so I'm kind of laughing. I knew just a tiny bit of French, and he knew a tiny bit of English. But that's the way they do 3D shoots. They dress up like Peter Pan.
Oh.
They're not trying to look like Peter Pan, but the stupid little hats were just goofy. And they would shoot 3D archery in France. So we became, of course, he was an old guy, and I was fascinated. And you know, he was so humble. And I remember 3 years into our friendship, he would come over, and his daughter said, he doesn't even come to see me. He comes to see you. And so me and him take off. I'd take him around drive. He'd want to see deer and stuff. So then he started showing me French cooking. I mean, I brought in a trout, like an 8-pound trout, which I'm not a big trout fan.
Mm.
He said, what are you going to do with that? I said, I'm going to smoke it. Oh, no. I said, well, what? And this was the first time that he had ever done anything. And he said, I said, you want to do it? He said, yeah. So he takes everything that I had cut off, except for the guts, all the fins and the head.
Right.
And he takes them and makes a stock out of it.
Right.
So he makes this, I don't know what it was, but he was using tomatoes and red wine with trout. You wouldn't think that.
No.
Bouillon. It was the best trout I've ever eaten in my life. So I said, man, what's your deal here? And he said, I had a restaurant. You know, he didn't make a big deal out of it. Later on, I found out that he'd gone on French polar expeditions. He was a chef on board, and they had video of it. And I did a big segment on the show on him. But I hung out with him for years, and he showed me how to make sauces, you know, condensed wine sauces, and just amazing. I learned more from him than anybody.
And if you were in Frankfort, you could share that kind of stuff with the locals, plus all the people that come.
And the good storytelling.
Well, there's so many. I mean, golly, you think about 2,500 shows. There's 2,500 people.
How many videos?
Right.
How many videos? You know, from all of the videos you've done, do you even know how many it is?
Well, you think about each one of those shows. It was a magazine format. There's 3 segments on it at least. So 2,500 times 3.
7,500.
That's how many segments.
Yeah.
Just for Kentucky
Yeah.
Phil.
Now, I remember the very first time I looked up Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen, one video really stood out to me. It was canning tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, last year, 971,000 views teaching people how to can tomatoes.
It's
I
this-
was shocked. I
And-
said, I got to know this guy.
And in Kentucky, it's like second nature for most people.
Yeah,
Right.
But all over the world, if you look at our demographics, if you look at our analytics of who's watching the show, it's 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, all the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Oh,
a
wow.
dream.
Right,
That's a
right.
dream. That's what you want. That's what everybody wants. So people, there's the 25 to 35 who've heard about it and want to figure it out. There's a lot of kids want to learn how to can and things like that. Then you have the people who used to do it but don't do it but still want to watch it. Then you got the older people who was second nature for them and they miss it. So, we took apart a beef. And what's that got? Almost 3 million views now? You
Well,
never
I saw
know what's going to
the
hit.
refrigerator picture you posted the other day off of the beef.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
He said it's not even deer season yet. And
Right.
it's jam-packed full.
I got another cooler for the venison.
Okay. So when the world comes to an end, I know whose house I'm going
Come
to.
on over.
Then you've got things on, if I remember right, on how to plant a garden.
Yeah.
Just simple stuff.
It's food.
You know,
It's all coming to the
you got
table.
all kinds of, you got how to build a fire. I mean, I've seen you around lots of fires.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you did one that show some city slicker how to just build a darn fire.
We showed them how high to get it. If you're going to cook with cast iron outside, you want to get your grate up to about 11 inches and cut your logs smaller. And we showed them how to do it from the ground up.
I mean, it's just interesting as can be. But as always, I want to go back to Frankfort because we're Frankfort today. Are there any plans or anything you want to breaking news or maybe some things you can talk about that you've done to try to open something like this in Frankfort to really be potentially our number 2 behind Buffalo Trace, our number 2 tourist draw?
Well, I think it's out there a little bit. I have actually talked to some folks here. It seems like there are some people in Frankfort now who are really interested in moving Frankfort forward. I'm hoping that's the case. I've talked to some folks. It's kind of out there. There's some interesting things going on. But, I would like to hear from some folks who would realize, what we could do here. So I'm all ears.
I mean, if you had a show that brought in 100 people, they buy tickets, could the person the landlord, could they get a cut of the action? Is that a right word?
Yeah.
I mean, if they provided you the area, you provided the face, the skills, the equipment, work something out like that.
Oh, there's a gazillion ways.
You're
you can
wide
set that
open,
up.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I'm not starving to death. I don't need
Right.
like a gazillion dollars.
right. But everybody wants to win, and that's what we want Frankfort to win. And all these small towns around us are doing a lot of cool things. But we need to do something like we need to put a buffalo everywhere. That's why we've got a white buffalo. And I've been talking to Patricia and Kyle and said, why do we not? Everybody else has got horses. We don't need horses. We got Buffalo Trace. Let's put buffaloes everywhere. Buffalo's good meat, isn't it?
We were in Buffalo, New York, a couple weeks ago. They got buffaloes everywhere up there.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. It makes sense here too.
Do they eat buffalo up there?
I don't know.
We eat buffalo down here, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Buffalo's
Buffalo's
good.
Buffalo and beefalo.
Yeah.
That's good.
Beefalo's really
I
good.
think you're right. I think we need to show this town off.
And you drive around downtown at night and stuff, and I'm told there's a lot of people down there. But when I go cruising down through there, I don't see a lot of people. There's, Sunday night restaurants are closed, so it's sort of like the chicken and egg. People go down there on Sunday night, but there's nothing open. And if they open, will the people come down there? I'm sure they will, because they're all good restaurants, and we got some really good bourbon bars down there now.
Yeah,
And
I have yet to go to that yet.
Who owns Foundry?
I don't know. I'm not going to say I don't know 100%.
I'd say that'd be a good open place with a little bit of modification. Could make.
What's Foundry?
It's down on Broadway. It's got big old glass windows, so even if you couldn't get in because all the tickets were sold out, people could still peek through the window and glass and kind of see what's going on.
We talked with Dr. Pomper. We met him at the KSU farm. That's plenty big enough. Remember that room there?
Yeah,
They got
yeah.
a big kitchen
Yeah.
for other stuff. I didn't know if Dr. Pompard reached out anymore because
We've done a couple things with them. You know, our we've changed up just a little bit. Kelly's always had other jobs because like I said, we shoot every 2 weeks, so we're doing a little less traveling. That's why I like the idea of a spot where we could set up and have a live audience,
and leave your stuff there, right?
leave our stuff there.
Yeah.
because
Not come in and out.
Yes, and have have the show in that place, and a live audience just I don't know, it's just fun. It's there's an energy there, and it's fun just bouncing stuff off each other and people really participating.
Yeah, it'd be cool to do it up at KSU because Frankfort and KSU got to get integrated better, where we're doing things together, and that's why I thought if you did something up there with Dr. Pompper's area, that'd be a primo location.
The thing about a studio though is it's got to have a look. You got to have a kitchen. You got to have in my mind, I had my kitchen completely redone to have that warm feeling. I need an old building. I need some antiquity. I need some brick walls.
That's
I
what
need to have.
I thought the foundry would be really, really good because it's got really high ceilings. So
Need that. I need that.
right, so you got plenty of room for lighting. You fight that natural echo of a building that always creates the sound guy's nightmare.
Right.
But yeah, and it's got that warmth, and there's a lot of the old. It's a timber frame building, and it's got a lot of timber, so that natural just
See, that's
warmth
what
and
I would
sound.
need to have for what I'm trying to do and the look that I'm trying to get. I need antiquity. I need bricks. I need that warm feel. And if I can envision it, and I already have, I know what I'm looking for. That's what we need for that.
How many seating area would you need?
I don't want it to be a huge amount. I don't have to have
50?
an auditorium.
50?
Yeah, 50 would be ideal.
Because I know there's one restaurant going out down there.
What's your
on
minimum?
Broadway?
What's your minimum
think
seats? Like if there was a range that Tim would say,
30, 40,
I want 30 to 60 people,
something like that. Yeah.
and just if I land in that area, I'm good.
Yeah. And another thing, Nikki and I are guilty of going to Lexington or going to Louisville. How many venues do we have for music events in Lexington? You got the Opera House.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, of course, Rupp Arena. But man, we need something here. I've never
Theater.
seen.
I guess we got the Grand Theater.
Yeah, but I'm
And-
talking like major names, big names.
Well, and there's and I can't even think of the name of it. There's the newer Impel theater that they've been working on outside of Bardstown.
They're bringing us a big name.
They've got some
We could do that here.
really good names coming in, and they're getting state incentives through Cabinet Economic Development to help bring that to fruition. I mean, there's no reason why we can't. And
There's a big open field somewhere, like around Nicholasville or somewhere, where they're bringing people.
right,
I can't remember the name of the place.
they've done that, and they're doing distillery on site, so that's great. Craig and I have talked about this multiple times. We got the river running right through. Why there isn't more than one restaurant on the river just breaking in cash? Because everybody going up and down that river on a boat has one thing in common. They've got expendable income. And allow them to get off of their boat, come in, get some good food, get back on their boat, and go on their way.
What's the name of that restaurant in Louisville that's on the river there that has quality?
Captain's Quarters.
Yes.
that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one too that we went to over there by.
Captain's Quarters is nice.
It is nice. What was it? You know what I'm talking about? Where you and I went and got that tower seafood. There's a couple places like that where you can pull your boats up and get off.
And there's no reason. We got the longest pool on the Kentucky River, 16 miles, stretches into Woodford County. And when I leased the Frankfort boat dock, and me and Jim Priest bought Lee's boat dock, we had people coming down from Indiana and Ohio and other places that would fill up the Capitol Plaza Hotel completely, top to bottom, on 3-day weekends. You remember that, don't you? Yeah. I mean, be there 7 in the morning till midnight and later, taking care of all these people traveling up the river because it's only 66 miles.
Yeah.
66.3, something like that. And it's about a 6-hour ride. If the locks weren't there, you could make it in just, an hour and a half. But it's a real pretty ride up through here. And then they would go further upriver. But I was only food. All I was making was hamburgers on the grill.
Right.
But I made
And there's
thousands.
like
a bunch of
I
hamburgers.
made
Right.
thousands of them.
Well, like in Ironton, Ironton, Ohio is right on the other side of the river, Ohio River, from Greenup County.
You ever been to the coal spot?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's on down. That was Hanging Rock.
Was it?
Is that Hanging?
That's where you got your cold beer.
Right, right. I've been there with my parents many times. But they had a nice little place. You just pull up, dock, get up, party, have fun, eat food.
That's what we should have here.
Why we don't have?
Well, you know what? When I was talking to you, I'm going to say a little bit, but wouldn't you like to have a night, and you could do different things in this place, in this space. You could have really nice jazz music one night, and have some really nice dinner, have a dinner jacket, and have some of the things that we do are kind of fancy schmancy. Then you could have a Friday night fish fry. Now I'm not bragging, but I got some pretty good fish recipes. I've been slinging fish
For a while.
in the grease for a long time.
And what if you had some of your newly discovered talent in there
That's what I'm talking
performing,
about. That's what I'm
and
talking
people
about.
eating some really good fish?
No ticky-tack bands. I'm talking good talent.
Right.
Right.
And we could potentially bring back that homemade jam show and shoot it like an Austin City Limits type environment in that room while people are having dinner with a live audience in the background and hearing good quality music. So that's, it could be a multitasking building.
So 30 to 50 people
Yeah.
seating, I mean.
Yeah.
Because there's, like I said, there's a restaurant going out. It's out. Matter of fact, it's closed down on St. Clair Mall. I don't know who owns the building. Then there's the bigger one that's used to be the Capital City Ballet, I think.
Yeah.
That's closed. And what's the one? Gibby's. They're wanting to sell, though, not lease or, something like that. But those would be good downtown locations to bring people downtown.
Well, if I can find the kind of interest I'm having other places in Frankfort who are saying, hey, you got the use of the building, you can do this. We have investors in other places who believe in what we're doing. It's a pretty good trip.
Yeah, 'cause it's more than making a monthly lease payment if they look at the bigger picture of what it could do.
Well, this could be something that could bring attention to, for goodness sakes, we have a television show that's nationwide. And, this is home for us. And we're at the point in our lives now that we're in our 30s, 40s.
Late 30s.
I ain't saying nothing.
Late
40s,
30s.
right, Nikki? Nikki's 26.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do the next 20 years, we're putting roots down. Wherever we decide to do this thing, I'm not sure where it is yet, but that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So if another city in Kentucky that you've talked to says, here's what we're offer, if you pack up and leave Frankfort and end up there, Tim Farmer and Nikki are not coming back to Frankfort.
Well,
More than likely.
Like I said, there's a natural progression
Right.
in what's going on in our lives. And the next thing seems to be, and it has to be right for her and I, and we do everything together. We're a team.
Right.
I mean, we don't do anything without each other. So if she's good with it, I'm good with it, and we're in a business situation where we can have fun, where we can have it's not tedious, and there's a whole group of retired state workers here, of baby boomers. I know a bunch of people I think that we could draw from who I worked with at Fish and Wildlife and so on and so forth, who, it's tough to get people to work at a restaurant.
Yes, it is. I can attest to that.
No.
100%.
It's tough to get
I've seen the
quality
signs,
people to work
yes.
at it.
But if we could make this thing fun, and we could bring some boomers in and say, hey, let's do this, and it doesn't have to be an everyday grind. But if we can have a television studio there, and we could do things like this there, we could do, it could be a multitasking building, it could be a multimedia building, it could be, fun, and we could have bourbon tastings. I mean, there seems to be some bourbon around here. I can't remember the name.
I think there's I seem to recall that.
Is it
Like maybe
is
some
it
decent
Johnny Walker's?
some decent bourbon around.
Seems to be like the
I think some people have heard of it. I'm not, I'm not sure.
Call your granddaddy Peppy.
Yeah, that's right.
But I
Call
have,
your old granddad Peppy.
Yeah.
I have. We don't have a bourbon sponsor per se, and I've never reached out. You know, we are so busy, and I have been on the road for so long that sponsors come to us, underwriters come to us naturally. So we haven't really reached
And
out.
haven't you signed something local recently?
Possibly it's looking pretty good.
Oh, it's not done
It's
deal
looking
yet?
pretty good.
It's not a done deal yet?
That may be another show.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
I'm
another show.
I'm not saying I'm not going to give it out. But,
It's looking pretty good.
well, you got anything else, Eric? We try to keep these about
We try
an
to
hour.
keep about an hour.
We're hour
Yeah.
10 now. We could go on for 3. I know.
I thought he was going to sing.
I thought you might sing. But
Oh,
you know,
Nikki's going to sing.
I can't play. I do well to play the radio. I do sing.
Oh,
I can't sing, but it doesn't stop me when I'm in the car by myself.
can we have a sample?
No,
He's got,
I don't do public. I don't do public. But no, I'm good. I'm excited. I hope somebody watches this video. You know, we've got a lot of good entrepreneurs and investors in town that are late 30, early 40s that buy up property, and they're always looking to make investments. And
they're doing really good. Thank goodness those guys are doing that.
right.
Or we'd have a ton of empty buildings downtown.
I mean, you got Alan Sweeney, Zach Moore, Taylor Marshall. They're always buying stuff up and looking for opportunities. They want to send their money out and make more. And they're younger guys, and they've got the means and ability and the connections to make stuff happen. I hope somebody watches it, catches on, and says, "Oh, I got the best idea. I got the best place."
Well,
It's a no-brainer for me.
well,
Right. Me either.
I think it would work. I can't guarantee anything, but we have this. We're so blessed that we have these people from all over the United States who want to come see what we're doing.
And we as Frankfort need to take advantage of you wanting to be here.
Right.
Us wanting to promote Frankfort and get more people to come to Frankfort to go to your show and then eat out in Frankfort, shop in Frankfort. If they come from Seattle, Washington or Alberta, Canada.
Right.
We have food products.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot
we
of
got
these
stuff
Publix
they
picked
don't
us
have.
up.
We got stuff they don't have.
We
See-
could even have a store, to have our. Publix got a hold of us somehow or another. They sampled some of my dry rub and chili and barbecue sauce, and Publix is coming in now, and they're carrying our stuff in Lexington and Louisville.
On the 2 new stores.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
cool.
That's
Yeah.
cool. So we could have some of our stuff here, and we got a bunch of ideas, but
Well, a lot
I
of these
hope
investors also, they have Airbnb.
They're all over the place.
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
put Tim up in our building, and then your guests come to our Airbnb. They've got multiple revenue streams off of the popularity of you.
well, I think and I've seen what you guys are doing, and let me tell you something. What you're doing is local journalism. It's, and I think as we watch, and I'm not trying to make you mad, but on both sides of the whole world right now, we're so divided.
Yeah.
If we go at a local level and start waking people up as to what's going on in our community, and it's, I met you a while back, and I said, wow, this guy's driving around showing some things that need to be beautified here that could be done quite easily. And I thought, okay, this is journalism, independent journalism. You guys aren't banging your chest and talking politics, but that's important. I mean, that's important. We need to get more people watching y'all's show, and I'll do everything I can to
Thank you.
share you guys out there in
Well,
Lexington.
we've had discussions. We've had lunches. I'm going to breakfast Monday with somebody, and a player in town that's a decision maker had lunch last Monday with a decision maker. It's just pushing them over the edge to think.
What drives you to do this?
I drive 127 every day from my house in Huntington Woods over to Da Vinci's. I get so tired of seeing if you go down 127 now off the exit, in those trees that are below Chili's and where Old Charlie's was, there's an amazing amount of trash, white trash that stands out like a sore thumb against those Greeley. This is the capital of Kentucky.
It should be beautiful.
Everybody that comes to Buffalo Trace by car or by tour bus drives down 127.
Either 127 or 60.
90% of them probably come down 127 because
What drives you to do this? You don't have to do this.
No, I don't. Same thing. This is something that Craig and I have been on a mission for since at least like 94. It is just simple.
little stuff, small victory stuff that's easy to attain. But
Yeah.
you can't get nobody to do it. Like I took a picture of me sitting on a couch on my off ramp. I did one before. You see it? I did one before. I set it up. My wife thinks I'm nuts.
So what drives me to do this is it's just having simple pride in your community.
Yeah.
In high school, I had a civics professor or teacher that used the word civic virtue. Never heard of it before. And it was a really intriguing word. And he said, does anybody know what that means? No. And he says, it's having the simple pride of if you walking down the street, you see a piece of trash, you bend over and you pick it up.
Right.
It's just simple pride in your community. And that's what bugs me is, you go up to Grayson, Greenup County. It's not as nice as the cities we're used to around here, but generally you don't see as much unkeptness. We spend so much money on things in Frankfort. We've got bike lanes.
Talk about that sign downtown. It drives me nuts.
Oh, I will. We got bike lanes that they put in for a couple of years ago. They're always littered with rocks, trash, and dirt. Well, you spend this money to one, destroy traffic flow in East Main and to give bikers a place to ride their bikes, and they can't do it. If anybody's seen a road bike, they've got real little skinny tires. Yeah, the sign. So if you're going to build the infrastructure, at least take care of it. Don't just put it in, take your credit for being on the committee that got it passed, and then leave it to die. The sign Craig's talking about, I wish I had the picture ready.
It's right in the middle of downtown.
It's right downtown where Hoggy's Ice Cream is and
the one with
Bee's
all the
Bakery.
directions pointing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
You
is
know,
33 ways how to leave Frankfort to spend your money.
None of them are pointing to any business in Frankfurt except maybe Buffalo Trace. All the rest.
I don't
of them
even
are
think
pointing-
Buffalo Trace is on there.
Yeah, all the rest of them are pointing out of Frankfurt.
Yes, there's
That's the-
33 ways to go spend your money somewhere
That's
other
the
than
dumbest
Frankfurt.
sign I've ever seen. Why is it not pointing to stuff in Frankfurt?
Bee's Bakery makes fabulous pastries. They're awesome. And I'd heard that she was a baker for Taylor Swift. I don't know if that's true,
I
but
think it is.
I think
Let me
it
tell
is.
you what, she's
amazing.
She was in Le Mans, France for the
yeah.
race car drivers. She's got quite the past. Didn't she work for
Her son lives.
Pioneer Woman too?
Yeah, her son lives in Spain.
Yeah, we featured her on our show more than once.
Right.
She's
Yeah.
amazing.
She is.
She's another one of those
And her-
well-kept secrets.
And
Yes,
her
yeah.
Of course,
daughter,
everybody knows about her.
her daughter, I think it's WLKY. She's a newscaster on WLKY in the mornings on their morning news show.
Yeah. And right there, right by the sign, 15 feet away. Why isn't there an arrow going, come have some of the best pastries you'll ever eat?
Let me tell you what. If I lived close enough to that place where I could smell it, you'd have to push me around a wheelbarrow. I wouldn't be able to walk. I'd eat. I mean, when I smell that, I'm done.
Oh, it's
Donuts in the morning? Are you kidding me? I can't stand it. I can't take it.
But
You know-
the simple answer is both of us have the desire to see, if you're going to tout yourself as a tourist destination or as a tourist city, everybody has all these things that they want to get done. The first thing you got to do is have enough pride in your community where you're not an embarrassment when people show up.
Yeah.
And we haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
In 30 years that I've lived in Frankfurt, we have not got there yet.
So that's going to be the main topic of my breakfast meeting Monday. Is we've got these projects they're talking about, these big projects that are 2 years down the road. I want to get one that's 2 days down the road. I want to get a small victory. Pick up the trash, cut the darn weeds. Just simple stuff like that doesn't take very much manpower, doesn't, spray some weed killer, whatever you want to do, whatever to keep it down. But good Lord, when you're driving into the Capitol and you got 500,000 guests, however they're getting there, and they drive down 127 every day, and we see the traffic, so we know they're doing. We see the tour buses, we know they're doing it. And our town looks like crap on that road.
We have every representative and every senator in the state that comes to Frankfurt.
Yeah,
So you're not doing this for the $800,000 per show salary that you're getting a piece.
No.
Is it
Heck
800
no.
or 900,000?
No, we're donating our time to this to
It's
promote
done.
Frankfurt.
We're giving all that money to charity.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
So-
I've got a
Yeah.
charity. It's called Tim Farmer Needs Donuts.
Yeah.
Tim
But
Farmer
that's
needs a
what it is,
studio.
you know, that's what it is. One day when we don't have people asking to be on our show, Eric and I will really get into the nitty gritty, and we will not hold back
Yeah.
on what needs to be done. And
We
got-
need a place to have good concerts here. We had this place, and I don't know what the Civic Center that was.
They
Right.
got tore down. Yeah.
It's a shame that couldn't.
that got tore down. Yet Corbin, town of like 11,000,
No.
Pikeville 11,000, got 5,000 seat arenas, and they get B-level country stars there, and they have the standard truck pulls and wrestling and all that stuff. But they get some quality musicians come in there, sell that thing out all the time.
Oh yeah, we've seen REO Speedwagon.
Right.
And this is in Corbin and Pikeville.
Yeah.
Pikeville ain't easy to get to. There ain't no major airports around Pikeville. Yet they sell that sucker out
I
all
know
the
you
time.
do. We saw Ron White down there.
You can't get
So
to
he's funny.
the only
Yeah,
way
that's
you can
right.
get to
Man.
Pikeville is to start in Winchester or Williamsburg. I mean, there's no other way to get to
Right.
Pikeville.
So
Well, I want to, I have been in Frankfurt a long time, and I don't do politics. I don't want any part of it.
we're not doing politics
Yeah,
here.
Exactly.
I was going to make that point. You pointed that out, and it's something that both of us as business owners, we will talk about political things, but we will not talk about left or right things.
Exactly.
Because you're wrong with 50% of the people
Yes.
every single time.
And we just want to improve Frankfurt.
Well, I do too, and I've been here a long time. I would love to see a good show here and not have to go to Louisville or Lexington, and that's what we do all the time because we love our music. And
There's
it's
a
just-
lot of concert goers around here.
I know.
Kyle Thompson, a city commissioner, him and his wife are going to see someone somewhere all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are.
It's like at least monthly they're out.
Yeah,
She
And-
can sing too.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, she's good.
We need to get her on the homemade jam.
Maybe.
We'll get her on that Tim Farmer Studio Kitchen sing along.
You know what? We feature artists on our cooking show. That's something that we did with Kentucky Afield. We always had musicians on. I got to sing with the Everly
You could have
Brothers.
Beth on.
Who?
Beth Greenwell, have her on and with you all.
Well, sure. I did shows with all the thumb pickers. I love that Western Kentucky thumb picking. That led to doing a show with Don Everly, who
Cool.
Who
I know
I
that
actually,
name.
if you look on Kentucky Afield, Don Everly, you'll see me singing 2 songs with him. And I ended up doing concerts with him after that because he let me do Phil's part. He said, if I'm ever in Kentucky and I'm doing a concert, and remember the Folklife Festival they used to have here? I did a show with him as Phil Everly. I did a whole concert with Don Everly at the Folklife Festival.
That's cool.
Years ago.
Cool.
And, Ted Nugent, I met her when I was doing a shoot with Ted Nugent. So, we could
What
have.
kind of shoot? A TV show shoot or a
A bow shoot.
It was a bow shoot. I killed a great
Yeah,
big pig.
okay.
Because he's an avid bow hunter.
Oh yeah,
he's
out of
an avid
control.
he's not an avid Bud Light drinker though.
No, he's not. Now you're getting too political.
But
No, that's just Bud Light.
the thing is, we're very fortunate. We're very blessed to have a national audience, and I think we could pull some people in here, and I would like to do that. But
And you'd mentioned Frankfurt a lot, right?
yeah, and here recently, and again, I've had my nose to the grindstone for 30 years. I don't know anybody in Frankfurt. I know a few people I worked with Fish and Wildlife, but I really don't know any of the movers and shakers. I met you by chance through Gary. I worked with Gary on a documentary about John Swift.
Gary's awesome
He is awesome.
and just so smart. It's
He
ridiculous how
is.
smart
He's
he
probably
is.
got an IQ of what?
500.
250.
Yeah, he's a genius. He's just
He
amazing.
is.
I love talking to him.
But he helped us on that project in a big way. He's got history in his brain. He knows.
Well, he's
just-
chair of the business college at KSU now,
Yeah.
so that's a big
So
title.
there's some real movers and shakers around here who are doing things.
Just
And
got
I
to
would-
get them hooked up with you, right?
I would like to see Frankfurt really get on the map.
Yeah.
When we go to Michigan, what's the capital of Michigan? It's Lansing,
Fancy.
and it's just dirty. And now I don't mean to be mean. I have to be careful here, but I don't want to be the capital. And it's really bad up there.
Well,
I
have
mean,
y'all-
people from Lansing will tell you it's bad. I don't want to be that here.
Have you seen the stage that Lawrenceburg built? They've got a really nice covered stage plenty of parking, outdoor seating. Y'all been
on the
up there?
food truck thing. Is that what they do, the food
truck
trucks?
Friday? Yeah, all
Yeah.
that up there.
Mm-hmm.
How come we ain't got something like that?
I don't know.
I mean, we got a trailer.
I got a food truck.
We got a trailer we bought, but I heard the music acts that come down for the music stuff on Friday night can't use it.
What happened to that? They had a nice big stage.
I had
and now
no
see them
clue.
setting up on the.
I saw, on those concerts, bands are just like super tight, about to fall off the stage. And then you look on Facebook and all these people are saying, where's that big $150,000 stage we bought? Where's that thing at?
Yeah, it was on a trailer. You move it around. What
But why
happened to
couldn't we build something in the big green space downtown like what Lawrenceburg has?
Right.
I mean,
you could.
Lawrenceburg's a tiny town. But
But they got a whole lot better
active-
parking, and they're a whole lot cleaner town too.
They're an active town. Yeah.
Yeah, we got what's coming up this weekend? 127 yard sale.
Oh, I thought it was last weekend.
Man, it rained Thursday when everybody was setting up. It was a mud heap out there. It
Did-
was terrible.
Is it this weekend
It's
coming up?
going on right now.
Yeah, it's going on now.
Okay, cool.
It's
This
like
is the second day, right? Start Thursday.
there's opportunity. There's opportunity there because people are coming from all over the place to go on a
People do their
yard
vacations.
sale.
they
Yeah,
do
they'll
their
drive
vacations.
for miles and miles. Give them a reason to stop in Frankfort.
You know, when I was a kid, we did a school trip to Frankfort, and I think it was on the way to go to a Reds game and in Kings Island. And that was from, I don't know if that was Mason County. I grew up in Maysville, and then I went east to Carter County. But you know what we came to see as a school trip in Frankfort?
Capital, I hope.
A floral clock.
Oh,
The floral
okay.
clock.
We got off, looked at the Capitol, floral clock, and then we went on to the Reds game.
We came down here. I was in band in high school, and we came down. I think it was the governor's inaugural parade. That was probably in '86 or '7.
I wasn't born then.
I don't know.
I was 12.
Yeah.
We did before we wrap up. There was one question that I missed. J.C. Schweingrabel, Grauber.
He's Gary's financial partner.
Gotcha.
In Virginia or somewhere.
He did ask earlier when we were talking about shooting. What's the hardest thing you've ever shot?
Now, you mean shooting a show?
That's the question. No, that would have been when we were talking about the bow. You talked about shooting the pig, the pheasant.
Like the toughest hunt.
I'm going to assume that that's it.
Who?
I would assume shooting a bird out of the air.
Oh, I tell you what. Now, this wasn't, well, I shot this. Did I ever put that on the show? I went to Ontario to shoot a bear with a bow. I'm very careful. But I went with these bunch of guys who weren't really prepared, I don't think, for the onslaught of bugs, mosquitoes, by the billion. It was a constant, horrific. And so I was trying to, I had these gloves on and I had like this Chinese hat that had, my problem is I had to shoot the bow with my teeth. So I'm waiting for these bears. So these guys, these guys are in bear camp, and the guy's this big. He's a man. I mean, this guy's Paul Bunyan. Don't you shoot my baby bears. Don't you shoot anything under 300 pounds. So I took him.
That's a
at his
big
word.
bear.
That's a big bear. I shot a bear that was 400 and something.
Golly, with a bow.
Pope and Young bear. So I was sitting up there with my bow and just miserable, but I was waiting. And these guys were coming back to camp with these dog-sized bears, tiny baby bears. And I'm like, well, it looked bigger on the ground. And they were mad at me because they wanted to leave. And I'm like, I'm not leaving until I get me a decent-sized bear. So here's these bugs. I mean, in September, it was awful. And so I see a couple bear coming in, and I'm seeing this one bear in the distance, and it's really kind of, it's smelling, looking, it's huge. And so I waited and waited and waited. And finally, he came around where I could get a shot at him. And so I had to take that had a cameraman with me, and I had to take that stupid mask off. It was like green. You ever seen those green?
Like a bee mask?
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so I set it down, trying not to, let the bear know where it was. And I got to tell you, 400-pound bears plus is a big animal.
That's huge.
And they can climb trees. So I was like, I want to kill this thing. I want to kill this thing.
And they run pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah. So I take my mask off, and immediately I have 1,000 mosquitoes. And, I can't, it's like in the Marine Corps when you can't kill the sand fleas or whatever. You do this training, they call it rifle training, where you have to hold your rifle. And you got these bugs, and you're crawling up your nose and your eyes. And if you kill one, you got to bury it. You got to give it a full military. You dig a hole. A 6-foot hole. I mean, these drill instructors weren't messing around. So I knew about the discipline and all this. So here I reached up to my face just to wipe it off, and my hand was soaked in blood. All these mosquitoes were fat and full. They're just sucking on me. So I finally got around to where I could pull that bow back and get a shot. Thunk, hit it, and it ran off.
Did you get it?
I knew I'd made a good shot. Yeah, he's on the floor in the bar.
That's what I was going to say.
He's still dead.
He's still dead.
Did you skin the bear before?
No,
Or
but
did
I mean,
those
it's the
guys
same.
do-
It's the same thing.
Same-
It's the same thing as skinning
yeah.
anything else. You got to, But I paid the guy to do that. He helped me skin it.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, you're talking about all those bugs. I'm picturing the whole time you're getting ready to take that shot, your mouth is open.
I had bugs in my mouth. I think I got bit on my tongue, and I had to hold that shot till he got to where it was.
Right.
But that was probably the most miserable hunt that I've ever been on. I've done it. I'm not going back.
And you fished everywhere.
Fished everywhere. We fished, golly, probably not every state, but we fished a lot of spots. And now that the show's nationwide, we can go do a show in Colorado, and where all we done shows? We've done shows in Alaska and Hawaii, and we just recently went to North Carolina and did a show on redfish and black. Here's an interesting story, and I know we're probably over time, and I need to shut up. But here's how. I'm going to even relate this to Frankfort. Paul Prudhomme. You know who he is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Black and Seasoning. He was a PBS
He created
chef.
it, didn't he?
He was a PBS chef.
Didn't he create Black and everything?
He's the guy that started that.
Yeah.
So down in Louisiana, the red drum was considered a junk fish. Now they're a fighting fish. I mean, they fight like nothing else. So her and I just recently went and caught some when we did a show on black and redfish. But he took this redfish in his restaurant down there and cut all that red meat out and blackened that fish. And guess what happened? It took off like crazy.
Kind of like tilapia.
Well, yeah, it suddenly, the blackened seasoning and that sweet meat, redfish has got a good taste to it, red drum. They had to change the laws on the fishing down there because they were catching all the daggone red
Harvesting
drum.
too many.
They had to change the laws.
What's that fish that's invaded Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley?
The
the Asian
The Asian
carp.
carp.
Oh, they're terrible.
Is there?
Terrible.
I know they've tried to make that into a food fish to get more people to catch
And they're
them.
great eating. They're really good to eat. It's really white because they're plankton strainers. They don't eat fish. Supposedly don't eat fish.
They clean the water.
They're
really well.
vegetarians.
Yeah, and they taste good, but they're full of bones, full of these hair bones. But the meat that's there is really good. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Maybe they need to do mechanical separation like McDonald's does chicken and just make fish nuggets out of them.
I'm telling you what, it's some of the best fish you'll ever eat. And I'm not kidding you, but it's got that stigma attached. It's got the name carp.
Carp. It's
Carp.
got
Well, that's why you need a name like tilapia. Just give it another name.
I shot tilapia down in Florida a couple of years ago, up to 8 pounds with a bow and arrow.
That's crazy.
And that's good eating.
Yeah.
Especially
Even that big?
the wild caught stuff.
fresh
is so much
versus
better.
wild versus farm
Yes.
raised. There's a huge
The
difference.
farm
right?
raised stuff is horrible.
Right.
The conditions that they do it in and what they-
Thousands
But I
of
like-
fish. Yeah.
Like even catching catfish, once they get, 10, 15 pounds, the quality of the meat turns.
it can get a little rank, and you got to
Yeah.
cut that. A lot of old timers call it the mud bait. You got to get all that red meat
Yeah.
out of there.
Yeah.
So a 40-pound catfish ain't very good eating.
Not even.
'Cause
That
I saw them catch them in the
I
Kentucky
mean, it's a
River.
40 pounds. It's not bad.
I don't think so.
It's how you
okay.
fix it. But
Well,
they
that
do.
might
They
be
get
it, too.
stronger. They get stronger the older they get.
I don't
Okay.
like the fishy taste. So
A lot of
maybe
people don't like catfish.
Yeah. Well, see, I always thought catfish is like the chicken on the water. I mean, it doesn't have a strong, fishy taste,
It's
especially
pretty
if you
mild.
stay under that 10-pound range.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're an hour and a half in there.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's okay.
That's no big deal.
It's more of a respect for your time.
So
Right.
you're going to get not eight. So you went over. So you get paid almost $1 million for this one.
Almost.
Yeah, at least it's triple time after an hour.
Somebody's going to see that and believe it.
I know, right?
That's a joke.
Yeah, that's why I'm driving around. Yeah,
That's why I drive a Honda. So,
yeah, me too.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
man,
This was
thanks for coming. It's
Nikki,
like,
thanks for coming out,
keeping
keeping him in line.
It's brutal. She always gets me and just shakes.
Yeah, I
me.
like Nikki. Yeah,
Well, she's a sweetie.
yeah. So, well, thanks a lot. I mean, it's a real honor for somebody of your stature
Oh, I'm not.
to come on our little bitty show here
That's
that
right.
we just started.
Right.
I appreciate what you guys are doing. I mean, this is local journalism. It's independent journalism, and it's important because any mainstream, but regardless of what side, is pulling this way and pulling that way. Everything has to start local, or you
And
get nowhere.
we just pull Frankfort. That's all we do.
That's what you need
right,
to do.
and it goes through the whole unity thing. I mean, if we can't band together in our own community, we can never band together on a national level.
Yeah.
To get anything done. You know.
So, take us out, Eric.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for coming. Thanks for sitting in there with us, Nikki. No one can see her, but she's sitting over there. Tim wasn't lying. There you go. Moving around there. Tim wasn't lying. He didn't come without her. I mean, he would not have been here without her. They're a team. They're a duo. So anybody out there looking to help Tim get a space or find some kind of venue, you get
And
the
help-
package for
And
the same
help
price.
Help Frankfort
And
grow.
help Frankfurt.
Well, we'd like to be here, but they better hurry.
They better hurry
She's trying to get me to retire.
because they may end up in Mexico. So
I might.
May end up in Bowling Green, some other places.
maybe.
Can't tell you.
Yeah,
say.
right. I'm just guessing.
Just guessing.
These towns
Top secret.
these towns that are growing big in Kentucky. I know some of them have reached out to you. I'm not going to say them, but I'm just glad you're staying here so far.
We just hope we don't have to break that news.
Right.
Well, I like Frankfurt, and I want to see Frankfurt change. I want to see, you've heard for so long, well, Frankfurt runs everybody off, and Frankfurt, you try to get somebody in here and they run them off. I don't want to hear that anymore. I want to see Frankfurt be all it can be.
I think we're changing.
I don't think
that
Frankfurt runs people off. I just don't think Frankfurt puts in effort to keep people here.
Yeah, we're slowly changing that business unfriendly moniker that we've been tagged with around Kentucky.
Right.
Because there's a lot of stuff going on in town and a lot of more stuff going on.
I think there's some folks. I really do have confidence in some of the folks that I've been talking to here lately, and
Me too.
hopefully we'll break more.
I know who you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's a different crew, man.
Yep.
Got my fingers crossed.
Me too. All right.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. That will be all for now.
Alrighty.
See ya.